I was in the presence of senior Ministry of Information officials when they were asked by foreign journalists, are you going to shut down the communications network? And the answer was no. There was very much the feeling that Nawaz Sharif would be anointed as the next Prime Minister of Pakistan. Mohsin Dawar's constituency, where I had been, some guy walked into a counting booth and picked up a box of votes and walked away. Pakistan also has a history of the military dealing very seriously with politicians that it doesn't approve of. They've been executed, jailed. If you give people a vote the way they have been given in this country, and they exercise it like they did on February the 8th, this is a democratic country. What is now necessary is for the powers that be to listen to the people. I don't think the vote for the independents who were aligned with PTI was a vote on performance. I think it was a vote that expressed disillusion and disgust with the status quo. I thought that I was coming here for a foregone conclusion, to be honest with you. Colour and movement, definitely. Some argy-bargy from supporters of Imran Khan and his PTI party. But there was very much the feeling that Nawaz Sharif would be anointed as the next Prime Minister of Pakistan. I, like everybody else, had expected a rout in favour of the establishment dynastic parties. I went to Lahore, like a lot of the international media went to Lahore, and then there was the network shutdown, so I couldn't work. I think that the message that they tried to send about why the networks were shut down on polling day was disingenuous. I think it was an effort to make sure that Imran Khan's supporters of the so-called independents and the PTI could not communicate with each other, would not have access to their WhatsApp groups, wouldn't be able to find out where to go to cast their votes. And I do also think that by shutting down the communications networks, what you're doing is putting the responsibility onto the people rather than onto the authorities whose job it is to keep them safe. And people in Baluchistan the day before were not kept safe. People in North Waziristan the following day were not kept safe. And when I was in the presence of senior Ministry of Information officials when they were asked by foreign journalists, are you going to shut down the communications network? And the answer was no. The voting stations that I went to were very calm. There were no long queues. I did this in the mid-afternoon, maybe around 3 o'clock. The voting was to close at 5. I spent time at the headquarters of the Election Commission, and so I was there as the count was apparently coming in. And over the course of the day, when it became clear that the independent vote was very high and possibly was going to become a sweep, the vote counting slowed down. There was palpable concern, I think, from across the country. Videos were flooding onto social media sites of, for instance, in Mohsin Dawar's constituency, where I had been, some guy walked into a counting booth and picked up a box of votes and walked away. The slowdown of the vote count that I witnessed at the Election Commission headquarters in Islamabad was, to me, a very clear sign that there could well have been, as people said, some effort to manipulate the results. I did speak to some people who told me that there was one guy I talked to whose constituency is here in Islamabad, who said that by the time the Form 47 was issued, by the time the final results for his seat count were issued, 100,000 of his votes had been taken away from him. 100,000 votes. you know? And yeah, so yes, I did speak to people about that. This particular person, eventually that was overturned. He lodged a complaint, it was overturned, he won his seat. But there are some people who haven't won their seats. When you have 128 million eligible voters, 44% of them aged between 18 and 35, you have a demographic that has grown up and become aware, become adult, at a time when the control of power has palpably not worked in their favour. I don't think anybody in this country is under any illusion about where power lies and where it comes from. The only voice, I think, many people, especially young people in Pakistan, believed that they had was putting a piece of paper in a plastic box at a voting booth and making clear that they are no longer prepared to accept the status quo. Everybody in the cricketing world, in the Anglo world, knows who Imran Khan is. And that, I think, is the main reason for his high profile. I live in London. The media in the UK love him. He's glamorous. He was married to a high profile lady who's now with another high profile person. You know, it just feeds into the celebrity obsession. He was not, in my view, a good Prime Minister. He cracked down on the media. I think things got worse for journalists, even worse for journalists and journalism in Pakistan while he was the Prime Minister. Human rights were rolled back, women's rights were rolled back. He congratulated the Taliban when they came to power in Afghanistan. None of this makes him, in my view, a good or worthy leader. A very important and potentially dangerous, pivotal point. I think the results, what happened on February the 8th in the election, are historic. And if there is a possibility of change, then that will be the point at which we will look back on and say it began there. I don't know what will happen, of course. Nobody can predict it because Pakistan also has a history of the military dealing very seriously with politicians that it doesn't approve of. They've been executed, jailed, sent abroad into exile. Will that happen again? Is there a possibility of a coup? Will we see a military want to give up some of its grip on power? I think that these are the questions that we have to wait for the answers.
Thank you for watching the full video. आप में से बहुत से ऐसे लोग हैं जिन्होंने शायद हमारा YouTube channel subscribe नहीं किया. So if you want to support independent journalism and watch more meaningful content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.